3 months had passed since the Battle of Earth. President Nara Kim, sister of Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim, stood before the largest gathering of species in galactic history. Representatives from over 1,000 worlds had come to Earth to witness the birth of something entirely new. "Today marks the end of the old ways," she announced to the assembly. "For centuries, the galaxy has been ruled by fear and oppression. The Galactic Empire told you that conquest was the only path to unity. They were wrong." Behind her, massive screens showed images from across the galaxy. Worlds that had thrown off imperial rule were rebuilding their societies. Species that had been enslaved for generations were free for the first time in living memory. Director Seong-ho Lee watched from his position in the intelligence center as his carefully planned information campaign continued to work. Every day, more evidence of imperial crimes was released to the public. Documents that human agents had been collecting for decades were now available for all to see. "The truth is our most powerful weapon," he told his staff. "For 50 years we gathered evidence. Now the galaxy knows what the Empire really was. The imperial government had collapsed completely. When their own people learned about the secret police, the prison camps, and the systematic oppression, they had risen up in revolution. The Emperor himself had fled to a distant world, abandoned by his own military. General Mi-Young-an commanded the humanitarian fleets that were bringing aid to worlds devastated by imperial rule. Her ships carried not weapons but food, medicine, and technology that could help rebuild damaged civilizations. "Report from the Altair system," called one of her officers. "The former imperial colony there has established a new democratic government. They are requesting assistance with their medical infrastructure." "Approved," Mi-Young replied. "Send the hospital ship Mercy and a full medical team. Tell Dr. Song that her new treatments will be needed there." Dr. Yejin Song had developed medical advances that could cure diseases that had plagued alien species for millennia. Unlike the Empire, which had hoarded such knowledge for their own benefit, humanity was sharing their discoveries freely with all who needed them. Scientist Junho Park demonstrated his fusion technology to a gathering of alien scientists. The clean, unlimited energy source could power entire worlds without pollution or resource depletion. "This technology is not for sale," he explained to the amazed audience. "It is our gift to the galaxy. Any world that needs clean energy can have the designs for free." The aliens stared in disbelief. The Empire had always used technology as a tool for control. Advanced knowledge was restricted to imperial worlds, creating dependency and ensuring loyalty through fear of being cut off from vital resources. Humanity was doing the opposite. They were giving away their most advanced technology to anyone who wanted it. Ambassador Kitae-han worked tirelessly to establish the new galactic government. The Terran Cooperative Council was unlike anything that had existed before. Instead of one species ruling over others, all members participated as equals. "The Empire failed because it was built on domination," he explained to the council members. "Our cooperative will succeed because it is built on partnership." Each world that joined the cooperative kept its independence and cultural identity. There were no imperial governors, no tribute payments, and no forced military service. Instead, worlds that joined shared resources, knowledge, and mutual defense agreements. The transformation was not without challenges. Some imperial loyalists tried to resist the changes, and a few worlds attempted to establish their own small empires. But these efforts failed when faced with the cooperative response of free worlds working together. Admiral Hyojin-Oh stood on her flagship, now openly visible in Earth orbit instead of disguised as mining equipment. Around her, the greatest fleet in galactic history was being used not for conquest, but for protection and humanitarian aid. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we have received requests for assistance from 47 worlds this week. Pirates are attacking trade routes in the former imperial sectors. Deploy Task Force 7 to the Outer Rim," she ordered. "Make it clear that attacks on civilian vessels will not be tolerated." The human fleet had become the galaxy's police force, protecting trade routes and defending smaller worlds from those who would prey on them. But unlike imperial forces, human ships were welcomed wherever they went. On the first anniversary of the Battle of Earth, representatives from over 3,000 worlds gathered for the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Charter. The document established principles that had never before existed in galactic government: equality between species, protection of individual rights, and the sharing of knowledge for the benefit of all. President Nara Kim signed the charter first, followed by leaders from across the galaxy. As each signature was added, another species committed to the radical idea that cooperation was stronger than conquest. 1 year ago, she said in her speech, the Empire attacked Earth because they believed we were weak. They confused our preference for peace with inability to defend ourselves. Today we have proven that strength comes not from the ability to conquer, but from the wisdom to cooperate. In the audience, former Grand Admiral Zeftar listened to her words. He was no longer an imperial officer. The empire he had served no longer existed. Instead, he now worked as the advisor to the cooperative, helping to identify and reform corrupt imperial institutions. I was wrong, he had told President Kim when he first requested asylum on Earth. My species spent centuries believing that only the strong survived. You have shown us that only the cooperative truly thrive. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim, who had delivered humanity's first warning to the Empire, now served as the first Secretary General of the Galactic Cooperative Council. His first official act was to establish the Universal Declaration of Sentient Rights, protecting the freedom and dignity of all intelligent species. The Empire ruled through fear, he told the assembled delegates. We will govern through consent. The Empire kept knowledge secret. We will share it freely. The Empire divided the galaxy. We will unite it in cooperation. Dr. Sujin Han, whose underwater facility had been destroyed in the Empire's first attack, now directed the Galactic Science Institute. The organization coordinated research between thousands of worlds, sharing discoveries that benefited everyone. Science belongs to all sentient beings, she explained to her diverse staff. No species should have to rediscover what others already know. The transformation of the galaxy was not just political or technological, it was cultural. For the first time in centuries, different species were learning from each other instead of fighting. Art, music, literature, and philosophy flourished as civilizations that had been isolated under imperial rule began to share their cultures. Captain Dayun Park, who had played the role of a simple military escort during that first meeting with the Empire, now commanded the Galactic Defense Force. Her mission was not to conquer worlds, but to protect them from those who would return to the old ways of domination. We are not the galaxy's masters, she told her officers. We are its guardians. We fight so that others do not have to live in fear. As the second year of the cooperative began, humanity looked back on what they had accomplished. They had not simply defeated an empire. They had transformed an entire galaxy from a place of fear and oppression into a community of cooperation and mutual support. The warning they had given to the Empire had been simple. Do not mess with Earth. But the real message had been deeper. Humanity had been saying that there was a better way to organize galactic civilization, a way based on cooperation instead of conquest. The Empire had chosen not to listen to the warning, but the galaxy had listened to the message. And in listening, they had discovered something the Empire never understood. That true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to build something better together. President Nara Kim stood in her office, looking out at Earth's blue oceans and green continents. Around the planet, ships from 1,000 worlds came and went in peaceful commerce and cultural exchange. The dream of galactic cooperation had become reality. We warned them, she said quietly to herself, remembering that first meeting with the Empire. We warned them not to mess with Earth. Not because we were dangerous, but because we knew peace was possible. The galaxy had learned that lesson well, and it would never forget. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council, and they were the best 3 years in human history. Jaemin Song stood on the observation deck of New Sol Colony and watched the sunrise over a world that had been impossible to live on just 2 years ago. The planet Kepler 442b had been a frozen wasteland when humans first found it. Now, thanks to Council terraforming technology, it had blue skies, flowing rivers, and cities that housed over 2 million people. Jaemin was the governor of this miracle world, and every morning he marveled at what they had achieved. Governor Song, his assistant called from behind him. The daily reports are ready for your review. Jaemin smiled and walked back to his office. The reports were always good news these days. Food production was up. The population was growing. Trade with Earth was booming. Life was good. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoonji Park was having the time of her life. As head of the technology integration team, she got to work with alien science every single day. Today she was examining a council energy generator that could power an entire city with something the size of a basketball. "It's incredible," she told her assistant, Dr. Minho. "The power output is beyond anything we could have imagined. Clean, unlimited energy. How does it work?" Minho asked, leaning over her shoulder to look at the device. "That's the mystery," Yoonji admitted. "The council has shared the technology, but the core components are sealed. They say it's for safety reasons." Minho frowned. "Sealed? You mean we can't examine them?" "The council says the energy inside could be dangerous if handled incorrectly. They maintain the cores for us." Yoonji shrugged. "Honestly, I'm just happy it works. We've got clean energy for the entire planet." Across the city, Dr. Woo Jin Nam was not as happy. The military strategist sat in his office, staring at reports that troubled him greatly. As Earth's security advisor, he was responsible for understanding all the new technology that was flowing into human civilization. The problem was, he didn't understand it. None of them did, not really. "Admiral Young-soo," he said into his communication device. "I need to speak with you urgently." Admiral Young-soo Kang arrived 20 minutes later, looking relaxed and cheerful. The admiral had been one of the biggest supporters of joining the council. "What's troubling you, Woo-jin?" he asked, settling into a chair. "It's all of it," Woo-jin said, spreading reports across his desk. "Look at these numbers. 97% of our power grid now runs on council technology. 89% of our ships use council engines. Even our communication networks depend on their systems. And?" Admiral Kang looked puzzled. "That's wonderful. We're more advanced than ever." "But we don't understand any of it," Woo-jin insisted. "We can operate it, but we can't build it ourselves. We can't repair it if something goes wrong. We're completely dependent on them." Admiral Kang waved his hand dismissively. "You're being paranoid. The council has been nothing but generous. Why would we need to worry?" Woo-jin wanted to argue, but he could see it was useless. Everyone was drunk on the wonders of council technology. No one wanted to hear warnings about dependency. Meanwhile, at the diplomatic center, Hye-jin-oh was having her own concerns. As a junior diplomatic aide, she spent a lot of time with council representatives. Lately, she had been noticing things that bothered her. "Ambassador Jin-ho," she said to her supervisor, "have you noticed that the council representatives ask a lot of questions about our military?" Ambassador Jin-ho-yoon looked up from his reports. He had been Earth's chief liaison with the council for 2 years now, and had developed a deep respect for their alien allies. "Of course they do," he replied. "We're partners now. It's natural that they want to understand our capabilities. But they ask very specific questions," Hye-jin pressed. "About our population centers, our industrial capacity, our emergency protocols. Yesterday, Velnash asked me about Earth's defense systems in great detail. They're probably helping us improve our defenses," Jin-ho said. "The galaxy can be a dangerous place." Hye-jin wasn't convinced, but she knew better than to argue with her superior. Still, she started keeping detailed notes of every interaction with council members. Out in space, Captain Hyun-woo Park was patrolling the outer edges of human territory in his new ship. The UES Horizon 2 was 10 times more advanced than his old vessel, equipped with council technology that made it faster and more powerful than anything humans had ever built. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through," Hyun-woo replied. The message was from Admiral Lee, and it contained wonderful news. The Council had approved humanity's expansion to 5 more star systems. They were offering even more advanced technology to help humans settle these new worlds. "Did you hear that, crew?" Hyun-woo announced over the ship's intercom. 5 more systems. "We'll have colonies from here to the Centauri cluster." The crew cheered. It seemed like humanity's expansion across the galaxy would never stop. Every month brought new opportunities, new worlds, new wonders. But not everyone was celebrating. Dr. Woo Jin Nam had been doing research that kept him awake at night. He had discovered that every piece of council technology contained components that humans couldn't examine or understand. More troubling, these components were all connected to a central network. "It's like they have a back door into everything," he told his research assistant. "Dr. Soo-jin, our power plants, our ships, our communication systems, even our defense networks, they could access all of it if they wanted to. But why would they want to?" Soo-jin asked. "They're our allies. I don't know, Wu Jin admitted, but I don't like it. I've been trying to develop backup systems that don't rely on council technology, but I keep getting told it's a waste of resources. His fears seemed silly in the face of humanity's success. The colonies were thriving. Trade was booming. Scientific discoveries were happening every day. Earth had never been more prosperous or secure. Governor Jamin Song was preparing for the 3rd anniversary celebration of the Kepler colony when he received an interesting message. It was from a council scientific mission that wanted to visit his world. They said they were studying human adaptation to new environments. Of course, he replied immediately. We'd be honored to host you. The council scientists arrived a week later. They were polite and professional, asking lots of questions about how humans had adapted to life on Kepler 442b. They wanted to know about population distribution, resource management, and emergency procedures. You've done remarkable work here, the lead scientist told Jamin. Your species' ability to adapt is truly extraordinary. Jamin felt proud. Humanity was proving itself worthy of its place in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the anniversary of joining the council was being celebrated with festivals in every major city. President So-Young Kim gave a speech that was broadcast across all human worlds. 3 years ago, we were alone in the universe, she said. Today, we are citizens of the galaxy. We have friends among the stars, colonies on dozens of worlds, and technology beyond our ancestors' wildest dreams. The future has never looked brighter. The crowds cheered. Fireworks lit up the sky. Children watched in wonder at holographic displays showing humanity's expansion across the galaxy. Only a few people, like Dr. Wu Jin Nam and diplomatic aide Hye Jin Oh, felt a chill of worry. But their concerns were drowned out by the celebration. As the festivities continued into the night, council ships watched from orbit. Inside those ships, alien beings studied the data they had been collecting for 3 years. They had learned everything they needed to know about human psychology, human society, and human technology. The experiment was nearly complete. Ambassador Velnash stood in the command center of the council fleet, its crystal body pulsing with satisfaction. The humans had exceeded expectations in every way. Their adaptability was remarkable. Their refusal to surrender even in hopeless situations was extraordinary. Most importantly, their complete trust had made them utterly vulnerable. Begin final preparations, Velnash commanded. The test phase is ending. Soon, we will have all the data we need for the real war that is coming. In the cities below, humans continued to celebrate their bright future, unaware that their golden age was about to end in the most terrible way possible. It started at exactly 1432 Universal Standard Time on what would forever be known as Black Friday. Communications officer Sujin Bang was eating lunch aboard the orbital station Hermes, when every screen in the control room suddenly went black. What happened? She called out to her colleague, technician Dongwu. I don't know, he replied, frantically pushing buttons that did nothing. All the council systems just shut down simultaneously. Sujin felt a cold fear creep into her stomach. All of them? Everything. Power, navigation, life support, backup systems. Only our old Earth-built emergency systems are still working. Down on the surface of Kepler colony, Governor Jamin Song was in a meeting when the lights went out. Not just the lights, but everything. The climate control system stopped. The air recyclers fell silent. The gravity generators that kept the artificial atmosphere stable began to fail. Emergency power, he shouted, but his staff were already running to their stations. They switched to the backup systems, but those were failing too. Sir, his emergency coordinator said, her voice shaking. It's not just us. We're getting distress calls from every human settlement in the system. On Earth, Dr. Yunji Park was in her laboratory when the energy generators simply stopped working. The devices that had powered entire cities for 3 years became nothing more than expensive paperweights. Emergency sirens began wailing across the planet as power grids collapsed one by one. This is impossible, she said, staring at the dead generator. There was no warning, no system failure. It just stopped. Her assistant, Dr. Minho, was trying to reach the council technical support, but the communication systems were dead too. I can't reach anyone. All council communications are down. At Earth Command, Admiral Young-Soo Kang stood in the emergency command center, watching as reports flooded in from across human space. Every world, every colony, every ship equipped with Council technology was going dark. "Sir," reported Intelligence Officer He Young, "we're receiving emergency transmissions from 17 colonies. They're all reporting complete system failures." Dr. Wu Jin Nam burst into the command center, his face pale but his eyes blazing. "I warned you this would happen. They have remote access to everything." "Not now, Wu Jin," Admiral Kang snapped. "We need solutions, not accusations." "The solution was to never become dependent on them in the first place," Wu Jin shot back. "But it's too late for that now." Aboard the space station Hermes, Su Jin Bang managed to establish contact with Earth using an old communication system that hadn't been upgraded with Council technology. What she heard made her blood freeze. "This is Earth Command emergency broadcast. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. All colonies report immediate evacuation to emergency shelters." This is not a drill, but evacuation was impossible. The ships wouldn't start. The transportation systems were dead. The emergency shelters were sealed by electronic locks that no longer responded. On Mars Colony, Chief Engineer Inesio Lim was desperately trying to restart their life support systems when she saw them through the observation dome. Ships. Massive alien ships appearing out of nowhere, surrounding the colony. "This is Mars Colony calling anyone," she broadcast on the old radio system. "We have hostile ships in orbit." "Repeat, hostile ships." The transmission was cut off as a beam from one of the ships struck the colony's main power plant. The explosion lit up the Martian sky like a second sun. Similar scenes were playing out across human space. Council fleets emerged from hyperspace around every human world simultaneously, their timing perfect, their coordination flawless. On Earth, President So Young Kim stood in the emergency bunker beneath the Capitol, watching the destruction unfold on screens fed by the few remaining Earth-built satellites. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "They were our allies." Ambassador Jin Ho-yoon sat slumped in a chair, his face in his hands. "I trusted them completely. We all did." The answer came in a transmission that reached every surviving human communication system simultaneously. The face of Ambassador Velnash appeared on screens across human space, its crystal body no longer beautiful but terrifying. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Velnash said in that same musical voice that had once sounded so welcoming. "Your species has served its purpose admirably." President Kim stepped closer to the screen. "What purpose? What are you talking about?" As if it could hear her, Velnash continued. "For 1,000 years the Galactic Council has faced a terrible truth. Beyond the edge of our galaxy, there exists a force of unimaginable power. They have destroyed countless civilizations and they are coming here." Dr. Wu Jin Nam, who had managed to reach the bunker, felt pieces clicking together in his mind. "They used us," he said quietly. "We were an experiment. To defeat this external threat, we needed to understand the psychology of total resistance," Velnash explained. "Your species was perfect for this study. Your refusal to surrender. Your ability to adapt under impossible conditions. Your warrior spirit that emerges when all hope is lost." The transmission showed images of human colonies under attack, of desperate people fighting impossible odds with whatever weapons they could find. "For 3 years, we have observed you, tested you, studied every aspect of your behavior," Velnash continued. "We placed you in comfortable circumstances and watched how you reacted to betrayal. We gave you technology and watched how you became dependent. Most importantly, we learned how beings like you think, how you fight, and how you can be defeated." On the Mars colony, Inesio Lim and the few dozen survivors had barricaded themselves in the mining tunnels. She was still broadcasting on the emergency frequency, her voice growing weaker as the air recyclers failed. "Why?" she transmitted into the darkness. "We trusted you. We welcomed you as friends." The response came from Council ships orbiting the colony. "Friendship was never part of the equation. You were laboratory subjects, nothing more. Your children, your dreams, your civilizations, all of it was simply data to be collected." In the tunnels beneath New Seoul Colony, Governor Jae-min Song held his dying daughter in his arms. The little girl who had been born on this world, who had known only the golden age of human expansion, was suffocating as the atmosphere leaked away. "Daddy," she whispered, "why are the star friends hurting us?" Jaemin had no answer. "How do you explain betrayal to a child? Across human space, the death toll was climbing into the billions. Worlds that had thrived under council protection became graveyards. Ships that had carried humans to new homes drifted empty in space. But something unexpected was happening. In the deepest tunnels of Mars, Incio Lim was still alive, still broadcasting. In the ruins of Kepler Colony, Governor Jamin Song was organizing survivors. On Earth, Dr. Wu Jin Nam was pulling together everyone who had worked on non-council technology. Listen to me, Wu Jin broadcast on every frequency he could reach. The council expects us to die quietly. They think they've learned everything they need to know about us. In bunkers and shelters, in the holds of crippled ships, in caves and ruins across human space, survivors were listening. They studied us when we were comfortable, Wu Jin continued. They studied us when we were trusting, but they never studied us when we had nothing left to lose. On the screens, Velnash was still speaking. Your species will be remembered as contributors to galactic science. Your sacrifice will help us prepare for the real enemy. We thank you for your service. The transmission was ending, but another voice cut across it. It came from Mars Colony, from Incio Lim, broadcasting from the ruins with her last breath. No. The word echoed across the communication networks. It was picked up and repeated by other survivors. From Earth, from the colonies, from drifting ships, the same word began broadcasting on every frequency. No. Not a complex military response, not a diplomatic negotiation, not a plea for mercy. Just one simple word that summarized everything humanity felt in that moment. No, we will not die quietly. No, we will not accept this. No, this is not over. In the council ships, alien commanders were reporting something they had not expected. The humans weren't surrendering. They weren't even trying to escape. They were gathering in the ruins of their cities, organizing in the wreckage of their dreams and preparing to fight back. This is unexpected, Velnash admitted to its fellow council members. Our projections showed they would either surrender or die within days. Perhaps we do not understand them as well as we thought, suggested another council member. On Earth, the President So-Young Kim stood among the few remaining government officials and made a decision that would change everything. Send a message to every human in the galaxy, she ordered. Tell them that Earth has not surrendered. Tell them that we will never surrender. The message went out, carried by the few remaining Earth-built communication systems. This is President Kim to all human colonies. The Galactic Council has shown us who they really are. They have taken our trust and turned it into a weapon against us. They have killed billions of our people, but they have not killed the human spirit. She paused, looking at the faces around her. Determined, angry, but not broken. They wanted to study human resistance? Let's show them what they really wanted to learn. The word no continued to echo across the galaxy, growing stronger with each repetition, carried by voices that refused to be silenced. The Galaxy Council had expected silence within a week. Instead, the word no grew louder every day. Chan Wu-Im had been a simple mining engineer on asteroid station Delta 7 when the betrayal happened. The council attack had destroyed most of the station, but the old mining tunnels had protected a few hundred survivors. Now 3 weeks later, Chan Wu found himself leading a group of people who should have been dead. We can't keep hiding down here forever, said Dr. Haewon, the station's former medical officer. Our food supplies are running low. Then we don't hide, Chan Wu replied, studying a crude map drawn on the tunnel wall. The council ships out there think we're all dead. Maybe it's time to prove them wrong. Using tools and equipment that the aliens had dismissed as primitive, Chan Wu's group began building something impossible. They took mining lasers and turned them into weapons. They used asteroid metal to create armor for their small transport ships. Most importantly, they started broadcasting. This is Delta Station calling all human survivors, Chan Wu transmitted on the old emergency frequencies. We are alive. We are fighting back. Join us. The response came from across human space. Hundreds of similar groups had formed in the ruins of the colonies. On Earth, Dr. Bo Young Seo had been secretly working on something that would change everything. For 3 years, while everyone else was celebrating council technology, Bo Young had been quietly reverse engineering alien systems in her private laboratory. She had never trusted the sealed components, had never believed that humans should depend completely on technology they didn't understand. I've got it, she announced to the small group of scientists hiding in the underground facility beneath Seoul. I know how their systems work. Dr. Kyung-min, looked up from the alien device they had been studying. How? They're not magic, Bo Young explained, her eyes bright with discovery. They're just very advanced. And more importantly, they have weaknesses. She showed them her findings. The Council technology wasn't as perfect as it appeared. In fact, it had been designed with built-in vulnerabilities, ways for the Council to shut down or control any system remotely. But if we understand those vulnerabilities, Bo Young continued, we can turn them around. We can use their own technology against them. Meanwhile, on the ruins of Mars Colony, Gite Moon had discovered something else. The Council broadcasts weren't just propaganda, they contained technical data that could be decoded and analyzed. They're so confident that we can't understand their communications, he told a small group of survivors working with him in the damaged communications center. They're not even encrypting their tactical transmissions. Using salvaged equipment and pure human stubbornness, Gite's team began intercepting Council messages. What they learned was shocking. They're not just occupying our worlds, reported Signals Officer Nari. They're studying the ruins. They're analyzing how we built our cities, how we organized our defenses, everything. Why? Asked Gite. Because they're still learning from us, Nari realized. Even dead, we're still their laboratory subjects. This discovery changed everything. The survivors began coordinating their resistance in ways the Council couldn't track or predict. They used old Earth communication methods that the aliens had never bothered to study. They developed signals based on human cultural references that the Council couldn't understand. Back on Earth, Dr. Woojin Nam had established contact with survivor groups across the planet. From his hidden command center in the mountains, he was coordinating something that the Council's computers said was impossible. According to their calculations, he explained to President So-Young Kim, who had survived in the underground bunker, humans should have either surrendered or died of despair by now. But we haven't, the president replied. No, we haven't, and that's driving them crazy. The evidence was in the intercepted communications. Council commanders were reporting anomalous behavior among human survivors. Instead of giving up, the humans were getting more organized. Instead of surrendering, they were getting more creative. On the orbital station Hermes, Sujin Bang had turned the crippled space station into a communications hub. Using the old Earth systems that the Council had ignored, she was relaying messages between survivor groups across the galaxy. This is Hermes Relay, she broadcast daily. We are still here. We are still fighting. We are still saying no. The word had become more than just a refusal. It had become a weapon. Every time a Council ship detected human survivors, they heard the same transmission. No, no, we will not surrender. No, we will not despair. No, you have not won. Yanwu Xin, a former psychology professor who had escaped from the ruins of New Beijing, had been studying the Council's own psychological warfare tactics. What she discovered made her laugh for the first time since Black Friday. They don't understand us at all, she told her small group of survivors. They studied us for 3 years, but they only saw what they wanted to see. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Ji-hoon, a fellow academic who had been helping with the analysis. They saw us when we were comfortable, when we were trusting, when we had something to lose, Yanwu explained. But they never really understood what happens to humans when we have nothing left to lose, she showed them. Intercepted Council communications where alien commanders complained about irrational human behavior and impossible, persistence in hopeless situations. They expected us to act logically, Yanwu continued. When faced with certain death, most species surrender to preserve what they can. But humans? When we have nothing left to lose, we become something they've never encountered before. The proof was everywhere. On colony worlds that should have been silent graveyards, human survivors were building impossible things from the wreckage. They were creating weapons from farming equipment, turning children's toys into communication devices, using their own blood to power emergency systems when nothing else would work. Chanwuim's asteroid station had become the center of a growing network of resistance. His miners had learned to hide in the asteroid belt, using the rock formations to ambush Council patrol ships. We can't win a direct fight, Chanwu admitted to his expanding group of followers. But we don't need to. We just need to keep proving that we're not dead. The psychological effect on the Council was beginning to show. Their communications revealed growing frustration and confusion. They had planned for a quick extermination, followed by detailed study of the wreckage. Instead, they found themselves fighting a war against an enemy that refused to acknowledge it was defeated. Dr. Bo Young Seo had been sharing her discoveries with survivor groups across human space. The technical information she had gleaned from Reverse Engineering Council technology was spreading like wildfire through the resistance networks. "We can build our own FTL drives," she announced, during a coded transmission. "Primitive ones, but they'll work, and the council won't be able to shut them down remotely." "How?" asked Governor Jamin Song, transmitting from the caves beneath Kepler Colony where he was still leading survivors. "Because they're built with human engineering principles." "Not council ones," Bo Young replied. "They're ugly, inefficient, and completely unpredictable. The aliens won't know how to counter them because they don't make logical sense." This was the key insight that changed everything. The council's greatest strength, their logical, efficient, perfectly coordinated technology, was also their greatest weakness. They couldn't understand or predict systems that were built on human stubbornness rather than logical design. The resistance began building ships that shouldn't have been able to fly, weapons that violated basic engineering principles, and communication systems that worked through sheer determination rather than proper signal processing. "It's beautiful," Chan Wu said as he watched the first human-built ship since Black Friday launch from his asteroid base. The ship was a patchwork of salvaged materials held together with mining cables and prayers, but it flew. The council response was immediate. Fleet Admiral Velnash transmitted directly to the human survivors. "Your resistance is pointless. You cannot win. We have studied your species thoroughly. We know your weaknesses, your limitations, your psychological breaking points." The response came from every human survivor group simultaneously, broadcast on every frequency, growing stronger with each voice that joined it. No. But this time, the word carried something new. It wasn't just defiance anymore. It was confidence. From her hidden laboratory on Earth, Dr. Bo Young Seo added her own message to the broadcast. "You studied us when we were civilized. You never studied us when we were desperate." From the asteroid belt, Chan Wu Im transmitted, "You learned how to defeat the humans you created. You never learned how to defeat the humans you betrayed." From Mars Colony, the few remaining survivors sent their own message. "You wanted to understand human resistance, congratulations. Now you get to experience it." The council had made a fundamental error. They thought they were studying humanity's greatest strength, the refusal to surrender. But they had never understood that this strength only truly emerged when humans had lost everything else. Now, in the ruins of their civilization, humanity was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before, not the comfortable, trusting species that had joined the Council 3 years ago, but something forged. 6 months after Black Friday, the Galaxy Council discovered that their greatest fear was not the enemy from beyond the galaxy. It was what they had created from their betrayal of humanity. Sun Ho-an stood on the bridge of the ship Defiance, watching a council supply convoy approach through the asteroid field. 6 months ago, Sun Ho had been a cargo pilot for mining operations. Today, he commanded a fleet of 30 ships built from salvaged alien hulks and human determination. "All ships, remember the plan," he transmitted to his fleet. "Hit fast, take what we need, and disappear. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to teach them fear." The council convoy never saw them coming. The human ships struck from multiple directions at once, their movements completely unpredictable to alien tactical computers. They used weapons that shouldn't have worked and tactics that made no logical sense. Within minutes, the convoy was scattered, and half their supplies were in human hands. More importantly, the survivors would report back to the council that humans were not just hiding in ruins anymore. They were hunting. On Earth, Na Young Kwan had transformed the planet's military coordination from the underground bunkers. As the new military commander of human resistance, she had spent months analyzing every piece of council technology they could recover from the attacks. "We know everything about them," now she announced during the daily coordination meeting with survivor leaders across the galaxy. Their ship designs, their weapons, their communication protocols. Most importantly, we know their weaknesses. Governor Jamin Song, transmitting from Kepler Colony, leaned forward. "What weaknesses?" "They're too organized," Nayang explained. "Every council race has followed the same pattern for thousands of years. They think in formation. They plan for logical responses. They can't handle chaos. She showed them tactical analysis that her teams had compiled. Their computers can predict the behavior of any organized military force. But we're not organized, are we? We're desperate people with nothing to lose, building weapons from garbage and making up tactics as we go along. This had become humanity's greatest advantage. While the Council tried to fight them like a traditional enemy, humans fought like survivors. They had no standard formations, no predictable strategies, no logical command structure. Chanwu Im's asteroid mining operation had grown into something the Council couldn't classify. Part pirate fleet, part mobile factory, part communication hub. He built ships that changed configuration during battle, weapons that worked differently every time they were used, and battle plans that were made up on the spot. The beautiful thing, Chanwu told his growing fleet, is that we don't know what we're going to do next. So how can they? The psychological effect on the Council was devastating. Their report spoke of impossible human behavior and tactical responses that violate all known military doctrine. Dr. Bo Young Seo had established hidden laboratories on 17 worlds, each one producing technology that the Council couldn't understand or counter. Her greatest achievement was a new form of faster-than-light travel that worked on principles the aliens had never encountered. It's based on human stubbornness, she explained, to a gathering of resistant scientists. Instead of calculating the most efficient path through space, our drive simply refused to accept that distance should be a limitation. The technology was crude and dangerous, but it worked. More importantly, Council ships couldn't track it because it didn't follow any known laws of physics. We're not building better technology, Bo Young continued. We're building human technology. Technology that works because we believe it should, not because it makes sense. This was the revelation that changed everything. Humanity had spent 3 years trying to understand alien science. Now they were creating their own science based on human principles that the galaxy had never seen before. The Council's greatest mistake became clear when Yan Wu Xin published her psychological analysis of the situation. Broadcasting from her hidden research station, she explained what the aliens had never understood. They studied us as subjects in a laboratory, she said. But you can't understand a species by watching them in comfortable conditions. Human nature only fully emerges under pressure. She'd been analyzing Council communications for months, tracking their growing confusion and fear. They expected us to break down when they took away our technology. Instead, we learned to build our own. They expected us to despair when they destroyed our cities. Instead, we learned to live in the ruins. They expected us to surrender when faced with impossible odds. Instead, we learned to enjoy impossible odds. The turning point came when Sun Ho-An's fleet encountered a full Council battle group near the ruins of Titan Station. By all logic, 30 improvised human ships should have been destroyed instantly by 20 advanced alien warships. Instead, the humans did something the Council computers couldn't process. They attacked individually, each ship using completely different tactics, weapons, and approach patterns. Some ships rammed directly at the enemy. Others used their mining lasers to cut through alien hulls. One ship simply started broadcasting human music at such volume that it jammed Council communications. The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Council battle group. Not because the human ships were superior, but because the aliens couldn't adapt to fighting an enemy that made no sense. Report, demanded Fleet Admiral Velnash. When the survivors limped back to the Council, "Fleet, we cannot fight them," the surviving captain replied. "They do not follow any known patterns of warfare. Our tactical computers cannot predict their moves because their moves are not logical." "Then we will send more ships," Velnash decided. "Sir," the captain continued, "they are not fighting to win territory or resources. They are fighting to prove that they cannot be defeated. Every battle makes them stronger, not weaker." This was the truth that the Council finally began to understand. Humanity was not fighting a traditional war. They were fighting to demonstrate that betrayal has consequences. From his command center on the rebuilt Mars colony, Huan Suo, now leading the Mars resistance, sent a message that reached every corner of the galaxy. To the Galaxy Council and all who serve them, you wanted to study human resistance to prepare for your war against an external enemy. Congratulations, you have succeeded beyond your wildest fears. The message continued. As reports flooded in from across human space, 17 colony worlds had been rebuilt using purely human technology. Over 200 ships now formed the human resistance fleet. Most shocking of all, humans had begun to wage psychological warfare that was breaking down council discipline. You taught us that friendship is a lie, Huan Su's message continued. You taught us that trust is weakness. You taught us that the only beings we can depend on are ourselves. Most importantly, you taught us that the galaxy is ruled by those who are willing to commit genocide for their own purposes. Council communications were reporting something unprecedented: rebellion among their own member species. The brutality of humanity's betrayal had shocked other alien races, and some were beginning to question Council authority. We offered cooperation, Huan Su concluded. You chose war. We offered trust. You chose betrayal. We offered friendship. You chose genocide. Now you live with the consequences. The final revelation came when Dr. Bo Young-seo made her greatest discovery. Hidden in the deepest files of recovered Council technology, she found the truth about the external threat the Council claimed to fear. There is no external enemy, she announced during a galaxy-wide broadcast. The Council invented the threat to justify their actions. They betrayed us not to prepare for war, but to test whether they could completely destroy a member species without consequences. The evidence was overwhelming. The external threat was a fabrication designed to cover the Council's real purpose, establishing absolute control over the galaxy through fear and betrayal. They needed to know if they could betray anyone completely, Bo Young continued. They chose humanity as their test case because we were the newest members, the most trusting, the most dependent on their technology. The galaxy's response was immediate. Rebellions broke out on Council worlds. Member species began withdrawing their support. The careful balance of power that had maintained the Council for millennia began to collapse. In the chaos, one voice rose above all others. It came from Earth, from President So-Young Kim, who had survived in the bunkers and emerged to lead humanity's response. To every species in this galaxy who has ever trusted the Council, who has ever depended on their protection, who has ever believed their promises, look at what they did to us. Look at how easily they turned our trust into our destruction. Ask yourself, what makes you think you're safe? The message ended with humanity's final word to the Galaxy Council, spoken by every human survivor simultaneously, broadcast from every human ship and colony. You asked what humanity could offer the galaxy. Now you know. We offer the promise that tyrants will always face consequences. We offer the demonstration that some things cannot be broken, no matter how much power you have. We offer proof that betrayal creates enemies more dangerous than any you could imagine. The word that had started as desperate defiance had become something that shook the foundations of galactic civilization.